Let's take a look.
Going into Snip after you pull Hammer is a common and very strong option, as Hammer protects you from fuzzies and mashing. Your opponent can backdash the Hammer, but it isn't going to stop them from getting hit. Your opponent also can't jump away from the Hammer if the spacing's correct. If the spacing isn't correct, your opponent can jump away from it and get out of the situation. Although, if they try to punish you for doing Snip, Hammer can still stop them. Hammer can also beat some supers. It doesn't beat all of them, but it does beat quite a few of them. Kai's Ride the Lightning is one of them. It doesn't matter if he does it on wake up or he does it after a backdash, it will lose to Hammer. Well, trade, technically. But some supers, like Go Lewis's Behemoth Typhoon super thing, can't remember what it's called, will beat Hammer, so be careful who you use it against. I've labbed this as well, Hammer will trade with every single DP in the game, so it's not a good situation, but it's not a bad situation either. Even when characters have a light and heavy version, it will still trade. If you are not right on top of your opponent though when you do the 2k, your opponent can get out of the situation and still punish you. Not every character can, but some can. Kai can for certain. Hammer can also be used to pull other items and try and keep your opponent on defense depending on what item you pull. This isn't foolproof, however, some characters do have options to get around this, so be wary of that. You do, however, have counterplay options to their counterplay options, both reactive and preemptive, to stop their approach. Some characters, like Saw, have unique options to get around the Hammer. It's kinda tricky to do, but he can do it if he times it right and he's aware of it. But once again, you do have counterplay options to stop this, both preemptive and reactive. Plus it's just really difficult to do in general. That Night Raid Vortex is hard to do. Another option you have, other than pulling another item or going for command grab, is using the Hammer to do resets. Time it right and Hammer will hit after your meaty and basically make you plus, so you can land counter hits. Be warned though, this option can lose to throw. I'm not certain if it is a guaranteed loss to throw or whether or not if I was just slow on the button, but throw can beat it if you, at the very least, mistime it. But you do have a command grab, so if you are expecting a throw, you can punish with the command grab. It makes the situation far more dangerous for your opponent. Characters with faster than 5 frame normals like Saul can quite easily exploit the gap. There is a gap in the string, so characters with DPs can use the DP to get out of it, although this option might lose to command grab. Just like DP, invulnerable supers can exploit the gap, and because of the pushback on closest, the Hammer will not protect you. You can use Hammer yourself to fill gaps in your own strings to allow for combo routes that normally aren't available. This is an RC combo you can do by using the Hammer to fill the gap in between the 6HS and the thrust. It will also wall break if you're close enough to the wall, resulting in massive damage. For Faust anyway. You can use the Hammer to fill the gap in between 2k and 5d, just like you did with 6HS and thrust. You can then PRC the 5d and convert off of it into a full combo. Be careful when using 2k though, as it has a nasty habit of being throw punishable, depending on the timing and the spacing. This is just another example of Hammer filling a gap in a combo. It's not a particularly good combo by any stretch of the imagination, but it would not work without the Hammer. Not really sure this is a good option, but it is an option you have just to try and keep your opponent guessing. You can use the hammer to fill in the gap between close S and 5D, as well as close S 6HS. Be careful with 6HS, it's incredibly punishable. Hammer will also fill the gap in between 2K and 6H. And it will also fill the gap in between 2K and 5D. It can also fill the gap in between 2K and mix. Don't know why you would want to do this, but again, it's an option. You can potentially create a tick throw situation of doing a close S reset thanks to hammer. The reason this works is because 2K has very little pushback and command grab has slightly further range than a regular throw, so you don't have to dash in between it. The spacing is finicky and it can be throw punished, so be careful with it. If your opponent tries to throw you after the 2K though, since you're doing snip, it will beat throws. Your opponent can mash after the 2K to beat snip because 2K is -2 on block. However, depending on what button your opponent presses after the 2K, you might be able to crawl under it and still get the command grab. I don't think this air dash option is particularly strong, but the more options you have, the better. Depending on the timing, your opponent might not be able to press a button if their fastest button is 5 frames. Again, depending on the timing, you might be able to get a counter hit if your opponent presses a button. This air dash option though will very easily lose to Sol's 5K. It is just too fast. Similar to the hammer resets, there is a gap, so characters with DPs can use it to get out of the pressure. Since you're in air dash state, you probably can't block it either. And once again, there is a gap, so invulnerable supers can be used to get out of the pressure. And just like the DPs, I'm fairly certain you will be in air dash mode, so you will get hit. The biggest weakness of this, however, is that it will completely whiff on crouching opponents. All jump normals in this situation will whiff, regardless of whether or not your opponent is in afro state, but it can potentially lead to some weird cross-up situation. I've been testing J2K as a meaty on item toss Orki, and it works similar to close S resets, but overall I think it's better, because it's much faster and it leads to the same counter hit situations and strike throw situations. Unfortunately, it can still lose to throw just like the close S resets can. But, similar to the close S resets, if your opponent is going to throw, you can do command grab and beat their throw. If you expect your opponent to try and fuzzy the command grab, you can use 2S to catch the backdash. If the J2K meaty hits, hammer will allow you to continue the combo. Again, you can use J2K as a meaty, so if your opponent mashes, they get counter hit and you can combo. I think if you do the close S after J2K fast enough, you can turn this into a genuine block string. Another reason why I think this J2K close S situation can beat throw is because you can use it to beat Sol's 5K. Sol's 5K is a 3 frame normal, so if it can beat that, I'm almost certain it can beat throw. This is tricky, but if you do an extremely low J2K, you can make it whiff and go straight into a snip. Doing K-Crow hammer cross-ups is also a thing, but it's not super good, and it's very dangerous if you don't have meter to PRC. Just like the other situations I showed before, hammer will provide protection from some of your opponent's options. You can't do anything after you've done Scarecrow other than PRC, so if your opponent guesses which side you've gone, he can throw punish. A safer option for your opponent to do is just to guess what side you're going and backdash. If your opponent tries to jump out and guesses wrong, you will hit them with Scarecrow. If they guess right, however, they will get out of the situation because Hammer does not hit meaty. Just like in the other situations, Hammer will trade with some supers and it will trade with all DPs. If the cross-up works and Hammer hits the opponent on the ground, you can PRC the Scarecrow to get a combo. If, however, the Hammer hits the opponent in the air, you can hit them with Scarecrow, then do a red RC to continue the combo. I feel like this option is best used when you have meter and are backed into the corner, because you can use it to switch sides and get a wall break for decent damage. And that's it. If you have any uses for Hammer on 2D hard knockdown yourself that I haven't mentioned, leave it in the comments, help some people out. If you need any more information about what I've shown in this video, leave a comment and I'll try to help you out. I hope this video helped you out. Thanks for watching.